What's up, guys, and welcome to a brand new NeoVintage news. I'm Jabril from NeoVintage Games, and today we're going to basically talk over the biggest stories in gaming that's happened this past week. So let's just get right into it. Let's not waste no time. Of course, down below, timestamps in the comment section. You could jump to any story you want that interests you. So let's get right into it. So Crash on the Run. So it seems like Activision's mobile label, King, is making a brand new Crash Bandicoot game. Crash Bandicoot on the Run is the title, and it's bringing the franchise to iOS and Android in the form of one of those endless auto runners. Like in other Crash games, players will control Crash as he attempts to defeat Dr. Neo Cortex. It features new levels that are unique to this game, weapons, multiplayer, and also customizable characters. Now, I think this is pretty cool. I would not be super happy about this announcement if we didn't just get the Crash 4, It's About Time announcement. So this is going to be in conjunction with a brand new full-featured Crash game, so I ain't mad with it. Luckily, we're not getting the mobile spin-off when we're waiting for a major release. So this is just kind of an additive thing for people who are interested in that. And I ain't mad at it. I'm not a big mobile gamer myself. I used to dabble in, kind of auto runners, Subway Surfer, and Temple Run and all that back in the day. So I'd probably give this one a spin. I have no problem with that. Sonic Rush was pretty fun too, and I would imagine that is generally the direction that this game is going to take. And I could see, it being pretty fun if they put the care and love into it. And I'm not super familiar with King's previous output, so I can't comment on the quality of their work previously, but I have faith in this property and its ability to kind of adapt to different formats and stuff like that. There's lots of characters, lots of unique environments that he runs, and lots of upgrades and different stuff that they can play around with that can establish some kind of metagame to give it some depth. So I have a decent amount of faith in this game, and I'll probably give it a little spin when it comes out. I'm assuming it's going to be free, but hopefully they can keep that price low, because the mobile game market pricing structure is its own little beast there. So hopefully they can figure out something that works for them. And it's interesting, them Sony doubling down, or at least this is actually more of an Activision call, my bad. It's interesting seeing them going, more into the mobile space when you have like people like Nintendo kind of pulling back. So that's kind of an interesting swap, is that as Nintendo is going out, Activision seems to be doubling down. Second story is big for me. I'm really excited about it. Far Cry 6. Now, Ubisoft released an official teaser for Far Cry 6 starring Breaking Bad's Giancarlo Esposito. The brief look teases an upcoming full reveal at the Ubisoft Forward, which takes place today on Sunday, July 12th. I will probably be doing a dedicated video to that Ubisoft event, depending on how big the news is and how much I got to say on it. I might do a quick little video for you guys breaking down my thoughts on that. But I wanted to get this video out for you guys. It'll probably be, an hour or two before the Ubisoft dedicated video. So you'll get two videos today, so that's cool. But yeah, Far Cry 6, man, I am super excited about this. I am a big Far Cry fan. I generally decently enjoy a lot of Ubisoft titles, and Far Cry 6, or Far Cry in general, is definitely my cup of tea. I'm actually playing Far Cry 4 right now. I had a lot of fun with Far Cry 5. 3 is a classic. 2 I've dabbled in and never played 1. Some of the spin-off ones, Primal was pretty solid. New Dawn wasn't really my cup of tea. So generally speaking, Far Cry, big fan of their games. They definitely kind of have a routine and a structure to them that they kind of stick to. So when you jump into a Far Cry game, you're getting a certain type of experience, and they don't really stray too far from that specific structure. They change environments and characters, but a lot of the motifs and themes and general gameplay elements they kind of keep from game to game and kind of just slightly evolve with title to title. So I'm expecting this one to not be a massive departure, and with them going back to a tropical environment, but it looks like this one might be more towards like the South American structure. I think it's going to be a nice return to form from its heyday back in Far Cry 3, but at the same time take some of the better mechanics that were established in 4 and 5. Giancarlo Esposito, absolute legend to the game, so that's going to be an amazing additive. He's been getting a lot of work lately, so I have a lot of faith in his ability to deliver an amazing role. And I see some interesting rumors being thrown around about maybe this is a prequel, because that small child that's on the teaser image has the same scar as the main antagonist in Far Cry 3. So that would be really cool if they kind of tied everything off, which also means that if this is a prequel to 3, again, these are all rumors, then that means you could have a Far Cry game, theoretically, in the 80s perhaps, which is cool. So you can get half tropical environment, kind of doing something crazy similar to the world of like a Just Cause or a Far Cry 3, but then also a bit of a period piece, because maybe they can play with some like Cold War elements and stuff like that, since it's gonna be in the 80s, and you can have like all the drug cartels being funded by the CIA, like all the crazy, stuff that was going on back then. I think that would be really cool for them to play around with. So I'm excited to check that out. And again, we'll have more information on this, I would imagine, in a couple hours from when this is being filmed right now, and I'll be sure to do a video for it. And if there's not too much announcements there and it kind of becomes a bit of a lackluster event, then I'll probably just talk about it next week. So we'll see. Next story, we got a little bit more next-gen news for you guys, and it's the PS5 Game Case is revealed. So Sony unveiled the look for the PS5 Game Case. It features a blue plastic that's pretty much the exact same kind of case that they used with the PS4 case, except it has a white header this time. Generally speaking, I think the case looks pretty cool. I would imagine with the cover art being varied depending on the game, and that can have all different sorts of colors, combined with the blue case, combined with the white header, the cases could get a little busy looking. So I was thinking it would have been probably a lot sleeker, and I've seen some mock-ups of this on Twitter, if the game case itself was maybe like a black, for example, or like a clear plastic white that we saw with like PS3 titles, that maybe that would have looked a little sleeker with the white header, so that when the cover art's on there, the whole thing doesn't get too busy. Just my thoughts, but generally speaking, I thought at least the Spider-Man Miles Morales kind of image that they shared on PlayStation blog looked pretty good. I'll link it down below if you want to check it out, and it's also going to be on screen. So yeah, generally speaking, I think it's pretty sleek. It makes me really excited to see what the Series X is going to do, because I always love the contrast between it, because yeah, obviously PS4 went for something way more streamlined, nice blue kind of header here with various cover art, but the Xbox One went for something very, very uniform. So I wonder if they're going to kind of stick to that, where PlayStation kind of allows each publisher to explore whatever kind of visual aesthetic they want, with exception for, that kind of PS4 or PS5 logo at the top. But, Microsoft went for something way more like, you'll have like text font variation and maybe a little bit of coloration there. But generally speaking, it's white text, gray background, Xbox One in the corner, with not much departure from there. And some people really value uniformity across their bookcase. Some people like the, cluster F of different looks and stuff like that. I fall somewhere in the middle, where I can kind of see the advantages of both. I don't find the PS4 to be particularly messy looking, and I do find the kind of uniformity of the Xbox One cases to be a little samey and boring, and I wish there was a little bit of more variation. So I'm willing to see what this next gen looks like, but it is finally cool to see next gen stuff kind of dripping out and coming out. So finally we're entering next gen space, which is really exciting. So more next gen talk, but other side of the pond this time, which is the Xbox Series X game event is confirmed for July 23rd. So I just wanted to give you guys a heads up for another major next gen event coming out. Microsoft will hold its Xbox first party games showcase on July 23rd at 9 a.m. Pacific time. The company revealed today, confirming a previous rumor. This presentation will most likely focus primarily on Xbox Series X games, including launch title Halo Infinite. So this is going to be the one that has the first party titles, as opposed to the previous Microsoft event that they focused on third party titles. So we'll see how much they show here. You always need to temper expectations. Everybody expects them to unload the clip like crazy and show off everything, and I feel like the PS5 event really set the bar pretty high. Xbox seems to be having a different approach to this, and we have another Xbox story later on in the show here. So I'm really excited to see what Microsoft shows off this time. Their approach to exclusivities is going to be very different this next gen, and in many ways it's going to be the same. They have a lot of new studio acquisitions, so that means you're going to have a lot of Microsoft Game Studios output. However, will it be exclusive to the platform? Well, with their PC integration, it doesn't look like that. So their approach is going to be very different, which would ultimately change the way they kind of approach showcases and the way they kind of lay out things, and because I guess their thinking is going to be way different, where Sony has its first party slate of releases from these specific set of franchises that you're going to get these high quality, a lot of times third person action experiences, and then you have a whole bunch of third party relationships. Well, Microsoft kind of sees everything as kind of like this bigger family per se, where you got the first party titles, you got the third party titles. Some of the third party relationships are more marketing, some of them are timed exclusives, and all of them are kind of one big umbrella here. So I'm curious to see what is ultimately shown off additional to Halo. Another Gears is probably not ready. Forza probably is going to show up there. The Initiative probably is going to have something to show off there. Obviously Obsidian showed off what they're working on. So there's a lot that they can talk of, and I just hope that they hit it out of the park, because I would love to see healthy, competition between PlayStation and Xbox this time around. This past gen, Xbox One, I felt like got its footing towards the end, but was working at a disadvantage for a long time. And I would love to see both companies really, really excel and really, really go back and forth with each other, because again, competition breeds excellence. So the next story is a bit of retro news. I'm a big retro gamer, as y'all can tell, and so I know some people are on the channel that also love retro stories as well as me. So basically, a mint condition Super Mario Bros. Is now the most expensive game ever sold. So still sealed in the plastic after 35 years, a mint condition copy of Super Mario Bros. On the NES sold for $114,000 via Heritage Auctions this week, making it the highest single game sale ever. And this again is the highest sale for a single game. This sale beat out the sale prices for stadium events and Nintendo World Championships cartridges, which we've seen really high sales from, going all the way from 40,000 to 100,000. So this at 114,000 now is kind of set the bar for the most expensive single game sale ever, which I think is absolutely insane. Again, I'm not the most well versed in every single retro game, but I would have a million times thought that like a Lil Samson or a stadium events or a Nintendo World Championship would have sold more than a Super Mario Brothers. But again, games are worth as much as what people will pay for them. So shout out to you guys who got 114,000. That's amazing, and we'll see how it goes from here. I know the NES resale industry is in a weird period of flux where like the high point of it has passed, but it doesn't seem like a sharp fall off where they're going back to like the early 2000s, late 90s of just complete NES game worthlessness. So stuff like this shows that there's some degree of demand still for NES titles, which is exciting for me because I myself am a light collector of NES games, and I just love a healthy industry. However, as demand falls, prices fall, and that makes it easier for me. So I'm kind of two minds on this. Next story I'm really excited to talk about, Microsoft releasing a statement on next-gen upgrades. So Microsoft has reportedly warned Xbox Series X developers against charging for DLC upgrades from the current generation to the next one. This move seems to be aimed at de-incentivizing publishers from charging an extra service that Microsoft is trying to make a major pillar of its platform with smart delivery. Microsoft is trying to make next-gen transitions a lot smoother and player focused, and this kind of goes hand in hand with Phil Spencer's statements on exclusives, platform exclusives, which he finds to stand against what believes gaming is all about in general. So a lot to unpack there. So basically, EA's already kind of lightly commented on its next gen strategy of upgrades, where it's going to be a free upgrade for a certain amount of time, and generally speaking, it's a decent amount of time that they're offering there, because by the time that kind of next gen upgrade for free window ends, the next title will probably be out, next year's title. So generally speaking, the average person who consumes their games on a yearly basis won't really be affected by this. But Microsoft basically seems to communicate the way that's like, listen, if you buy a game on last gen, we want you to be easily able to upgrade, and we don't want publishers to be locking this behind a paywall, because if we know anything about the game industry, is that if there is a chance or a possibility to monetize something, someone will take advantage of that, and many times it's EA, obviously, with their microtransactions and stuff like that. So there's obviously a kind of void there where people and publishers and developers could be like, listen, there's an opportunity for us to charge an extra $15-20 here on a game to have them upgrade to the next gen. And if there's enough of a kind of game fidelity increase there, they can, in many ways, in their minds, justify it. But it seems like Microsoft doesn't have that in mind and wants that kind of clean, seamless transition. They want as many people there day one as possible, and they want all those Xbox One, Game Pass, all that kind of infrastructure that they built last gen to seamlessly move over, no issues. So it's basically, listen, you put down however money, $500 for the new console, but you don't have to put in no more money. You got Game Pass, you have access to that library still. All the games that you own could move right over, and then if you bought some Xbox One games of like the games that are going to be around launch that maybe beat it out, like Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Cyberpunk and stuff like that, you can move them right over too. So that seems to be the direction that Microsoft have. Now we can get into the Phil Spencer comments that he made about exclusives. Now, I am of two minds generally about this. Phil Spencer on many times has doubled down on his way that he wants to be Microsoft, to be that player-focused company, to give people what they want, when they want, where they want it. And he seems to believe that gaming, especially with the Microsoft ecosystem, exists outside of one device. Now, I could understand somebody interpreting this as a little bit of PR spin because of their having trouble securing those Xbox exclusives in the same way that PlayStation does. So you're kind of pivoting the messaging, and it's like, oh, we're not losing. We're not really interested in playing the exclusive game. We want people to play wherever they want. To me, I mean, it's decent PR spin, but the only reason I don't think it's PR spin is because he's been on this same kind of messaging trajectory for years now at this point. When he kind of came in and started changing the Xbox ecosystem from the early Xbox One days, that and the disaster that was, this has generally been his kind of approach, which is basically listening to the players. And what do players say is that, listen, exclusives are awesome on a financial back-end level to entice people to buying your console, but besides the actual hardcore fanboys, people like to play everything everywhere, and sometimes they want to play multiplayer games on one platform because that's where their friends are, but other times they want to play single player games on another platform because maybe they like the controller more, maybe they like the form factor and UI of the console. So people have different motivations for playing different things, different places. And obviously, if their main focus is just highest quality experience possible, then a lot of people just go to PC anyways. So Phil Spencer seems to be of the mind that it's like, listen, we don't want to be the ones making a barrier. It's like, hey, if you want to play this game, you only could play it right here, which is obviously an approach that Sony is very much in, and then obviously Nintendo is the one that is the hardest on that. So I think it's a very player-friendly approach, but I would just like to say that, I mean, obviously there are financial realities, and you could run it would be cute to be the most player-friendly, kumbaya publisher ever in the game sphere, but at the end of the day, you're running a business, not a non-profit entity, and you need to compete with Sony, who has a different approach to you, and ultimately the players will speak which kind of approach supersedes. I love Xbox, I love PlayStation, so I want to see everybody do well, and I think seeing two different approaches to next gen will be a really interesting thing, because generally speaking, for previous generations, we've seen two companies. You've got Nintendo doing its own thing somewhere else and successful in that regard, and then you kind of have PlayStation and Xbox going back and forth, doing very similar approaches, and small tiny details and small tiny exclusives being the things that divert them. But it looks like this next gen is going to be a completely different experience. But we'll see whether it translates to sales or not, because again, there's always that risk that if your platform doesn't offer anything super unique to that platform, some players might not be poised to jump to your platform day one. That is just a reality of things. So I hope this strategy works out for Xbox, but only time will tell. So I guess we can move off the story portion of the show, and now we move into the last two portions, which is what I've been playing and my game recommendation of the week. So to begin with, what I've been playing. So there was a sale on Amazon for Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Breakpoint. It came out some time ago. Not the best reviews when it came out, but it came out for $10, and I think right now, if you rush there, it might still be that price for both PlayStation and Xbox One. So I got that, and I've been playing it for 4 or 5 days, just under a week. And so far, I gotta say, I really, really enjoy it. But again, it follows that very strict kind of Ubisoft model. It's very much, imagine Division 2 in the world of Just Cause 3 with a little bit of Far Cry 3 sprinkled in there. So if that sounds appealing to you, I say go jump into it. Really, you have nothing to lose. $10 is absolutely nothing. You get the entire game there. I haven't bumped into too much microtransaction nonsense. Generally speaking, you play the missions, you explore the world, you'll find more than enough gear to equip to yourself to make yourself way stronger, and to also sell to give yourself in-game money to be able to buy whatever kind of aesthetic look you have. And I haven't bumped into any issues where I'm so short on money that they're trying to push you towards putting in-game money. I haven't seen that at all. So generally speaking, it seems like the online economic ecosystem that they've established in Breakpoint seems to be well balanced in my view. But the game is kind of shallow in my view. There's not a crazy amount of depth there. There is a bit of a story there, generally, in my opinion, not that very interesting. They kind of establish some stuff in the beginning where I think that it kind of gives you a little bit of play with there, and it's like, oh, okay, that's kind of interesting, the kind of world they build into. It's kind of a strange, futuristic, rainforesty, guerrilla warfare kind of vibe they're going with. So that's very interesting in that regard. And then you got some high-profile actors in there as well. But then from there, it kind of establishes a certain enemy variant, the way the AI works, then the general facilities that you go to, you gather intel, you kill the people around there, and you repeat the process, rinse and repeat over and over and over again. And generally speaking, it doesn't divert from that that kind of format much at all. And so I think if you're looking to play, 100 hours a game, you might be better suited for a game like Division, maybe the Rainbow Six Siege, maybe even Wildlands, to be honest, than Breakpoint, because I feel like Breakpoint has a very specific formula that I think is fun for a more passive experience. For me, it's a nice decompression coming off of Last of Us right before Ghost of Tsushima comes out. It's a nice kind of middle game where I could lose 15-20 hours into, no big deal, not much mental investment, just kind of go in there, get a squad of my friends together, we kind of hit some facilities, gather some gear, kill some people, screw around, blow up vehicles, do that kind of stuff. That's kind of the experience I'm getting here, but it's not one of those games I can see myself spending years playing and being like, hey, I'm a Breakpoint guy. Like, that's not going to happen at all. And I don't know how many people are Breakpoint people at this point. I don't know how healthy the online ecosystem is. I see other people playing there, but I play with friends. I'm not playing with, like, randomized lobby type thing, so I can't speak to that side of the game. But generally speaking, I think it's pretty fun. If you're looking for an online game to kind of screw around with for a couple of days before maybe jumping into something else, I think Breakpoint is well worth it. The second one's a weird game that I actually picked up online. So when I played Final Fantasy VII Remake, I had a really good time with that, and so that kind of made me want to dive back into that ecosystem, where a lot of people don't know, or I wouldn't say a lot of people don't know, but some people don't know that Final Fantasy VII exists actually as an ecosystem of multiple properties, and we talked about that on the Final Fantasy Remake spoiler cast if you're interested in that. And one of those titles is Dirge of Cerberus, which is a PS2 game which focuses specifically on Vincent Valentine, and it's a bit of a third-person action shooting game, which for that time is a little bit peculiar because you didn't really see that specific time. Obviously, it takes a lot of cues of stuff like Devil May Cry at the time, and generally speaking, I would say I have a lot of fun for it. There's some really interesting things they're doing narratively in that game, and it's just interesting to see an interpretation of a 3D Midgar, but back in 2006, which is really interesting seeing, a 3D Midgar in 2020. So I'm having a lot of fun with it. I picked it up for not too much money. I think I have it, right here in my PS2 collection. I picked it up for just under $20, so not too expensive of a game, and I'm having a good time. I've been trying to beef up my PS2 collection lately, and I have a dedicated video to all the game acquisitions I'm going. So if you're curious about how my collection's evolving, for the two of you that are interested in that video is coming as I got some stuff in the mail that are coming, some PS1 stuff, some NES stuff. So once everything comes in, I'll do a dedicated video to that. But yeah, Final Fantasy VII Dirge of Cerberus, pretty fun game. If you could pick it up and you're interested in PS2 titles, I think that's definitely something you can get, some time out of. I don't know if I'm going to see it to completion, but there is some interesting narrative themes there that might keep me coming back, but it remains to be seen because I got a lot on my plate right now in terms of playing. So my game recommendation of the week is also something that I've been playing, but it's a game that kind of snuck up on me. It's weird because a couple weeks back they did the formal announcement of it, and I was like, okay. And then it just came out, and I don't remember if they dropped a release date or not. Maybe I just missed that. I don't know. But it's Bloodstained Curse of the Moon 2, which I have to say, this game is immaculate. It's so suited to my taste. Now, I have to put a little caveat, a little PS there. This is based on the NES Castlevania titles. This is a sequel to Curse of the Moon, not Ritual of the Night. So Curse of the Moon was the kind of mini NES 8-bit styled game that came out before the major Bloodstained game that is designed after Castlevania 3 on the NES. So it's kind of a side-scrolling game. You get different kind of upgrades or different items to use. You walk from the left screen to the right screen. There's kind of platforming challenges. And you have different characters to play around with different abilities. Then you have boss battles, and then those are kind of, stage after stage after stage until you beat the game. Amazing 8-bit pixel art with some, 16-bit little touches there. There's definitely some stuff where they play around with some of the stuff in the parallax scrolling and some of the detailing that are definitely stuff that you wouldn't have seen on the NES at all. But man, I gotta say, any creators are just absolute masters of this genre, and I'm just so thankful for their presence in the industry. And I am having such a fantastic time with this game. And I have to say, if there was any doubt before, it's solidified it for me. I like Curse of the Moon more than I like Ritual of the Night, period. It's just more suited to my taste. That kind of more linear linear, shorter experience, but with endless replayability, is just a fantastic experience. Now, if you want to hear more in-depth thoughts on this, I can maybe do a dedicated video of review for Bloodstained: Curse of the Moon once I complete it. It shouldn't take much longer. These games aren't long. But this one definitely follows a lot of the format of the previous one, where it has multiple different characters. I do find that it does the thing where these characters are so fun to play that it makes playing with the main character Zangetsu not that fun to play with. So Miriam this time is not in it. You have someone named Dominique who has kind of like a long range sphere. You got somebody with a gun weapon. You have someone in kind of like a mech suit. So you still have the 4 players, but everyone for the most part seems to be better than Zangetsu until kind of the middle zone where you kind of, and I'm not going to give you too much spoilers, but Zangetsu's gameplay style changes a little bit and it makes him way more usable. So that's good that they kind of make Zangetsu a little bit of a playable, more playable character, but I wish they just did that from the beginning to kind of incentivize you really playing around with those 4 characters instead of really rotating between 3. The only thing is that Zangetsu maybe has a longer health bar than some of the characters. But yeah, generally speaking, I would highly recommend you play this game. I got it for $15 on the Switch. That's personally where I like to play it. But I think it's available on all the platforms, if I'm not mistaken. And if you enjoyed the first one at all, be sure to jump into this one. If you enjoyed Ritual of the Night and you're more into the Symphony of the Night, Castlevania games, definitely like the Game Boy Advance one, the Nintendo DS ones, then this one might not be for you. But if you like that kind of NES style gameplay, platforming challenge, this game is definitely for you. So keep in mind 2 game difficulty levels, casual and like a veteran level. Veteran is going to be what I consider the more actual Castlevania experience, which is the platforming challenge and the way that like they do specific enemy AI placements to knock you into pits. That's just the most classic Castlevania trick there, is like you need to really time where you jump and when you jump, because the enemies will spawn a certain way to knock you out. And that kind of pushback move is a make or break kind of gameplay thing that in the casual version is not present, so it makes it way more of a normal nowadays kind of experience in contrast to the traditional experience. So if you want the traditional experience, definitely play from veteran off rip, but casual is a nice way to get through the game front to back, experience everything it has to offer in terms of like the different characters, some of the lore, the different bosses, and then the ending. And then you can go back and get the actual experience that I think it's actually supposed to be played at. So yeah, Bloodstained: Curse of the Moon 2, definitely my recommendation of the week. And there you guys go. NeoVintage News. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Again, there might be a dedicated video to that Ubisoft event, so keep your eyes out for that if that's something that interests you. And I'll see you guys next week, next Sunday. Love you guys. Bye.